Hare Krishna, dear devotees, please accept our humble obeisances. All glories to Jagat Krishna Prabhupada, all glories to Brahma, all glories to our revered speaker, His Grace Manidhara Prabhu, and all glories to Samuel Vaishnavi devotees. Devotees, we thank you all for being here. We are blessed again. We have the presence of His Grace Manidhara Prabhu, who will be speaking to us today. Prabhuji has been generous, kind. He's been visiting us quite a number of times to share his love and wisdom he's gained from Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada directly himself with us all. So we're very grateful we can have his association again today. Prabhuji, so you're welcome back to Hare Krishna Africa platform. And we have the text on the screen, and you may take it over from here. Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you very much. So we go along Srimad Bhagavatam. This is the second canto, 10th chapter, text 19. Vivakshor mukato Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Vivakshor mukato bhumno Vanirvakvyahritam tayo Jate chaitasya suchiram Nirodha samaya jayato. So, can we have the translation? When the Supreme desired to speak, speeches were vibrated from the mouth. Then the controlling deity, fire, was generated from the mouth. But when he was laying in the water, all these functions remained suspended. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. The peculiarity of the gradual development of the different senses is simultaneously supported by their controlling deities. It is to be understood, therefore, that the activities of the sense organs are controlled by the will of the Supreme. The senses are, so to speak, offering a license for the conditioned souls who are to use them properly under the control of the controlling deity deputed by the Supreme Lord. One who violates such controlling regulations has to be punished by degradation to a lower status of life. Consider, for example, the tongue and the controlling deity Varuna. The tongue is meant for eating, and man, animals, and birds each have different tastes because of different licenses. The taste of human being and that of a swine are not the same level. The controlling deity, however, awards or certifies a particular type of body when the particular living entity develops a taste in terms of different modes of nature. If the human being develops jumping a little bit. If the human being develops taste without discrimination, as does the swine, then the controlling deity is certainly certified for the next term to award him the body of a swine. The swine accepts any kind of foodstuffs, including stools, and human being who has developed such indiscriminate taste must be prepared for a degraded life in the next life. Such a life is also a God's grace because the conditioned soul desired a body like that for perfectly tasting a particular type of foodstuff. If a man gets the body of a swine, it must be considered the grace of the Lord because the Lord awards the facility. After death, the next body is offered by superior control and not blindly. A human being, therefore, must be on his guard as to what sort of body he is going to have in next life. An irresponsible life of indiscrimination is risky, and that is the declaration of all scriptures. Mam Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamiti Namini Namaste Saraswati Devam Gauravani Pracharne Nirvishesha Shinyavari Pushkati Devatam. So once again, Srila Prabhupada illustrates and exemplifies the presence of God in all aspects of our life. Eating is actually one of the very essential ones, because Anuma, or the first impulse of the living entity when being born, is to eat. That we see in animals and human beings too. Whoever is a grihasta and had a small child and so a small baby, it could be very easily observed how everything a small baby gets, it puts in the mouth. The mouth is very important. It's how does it taste? That's the real important thing. And it's very natural, because it has to grow. The body needs nourishment. And then it needs protection. There's another aspect to it. It's quite amazing when you see how small creatures, animals and humans, it doesn't matter, provoke immediately a caring spirit on the older ones. If you have on the street, maybe an old being standing there, everybody goes, yeah, that's okay, he's old. But when a baby is lost and standing on the street crying, everybody comes running and everybody tries to help. The same thing with animals. So this is impulses which are all pre-programmed and installed by superior deities. And that's clearly explained in this text, that we are not in control. And it's so amazing. Not only people don't understand that they are not this body, but they don't even understand where the body really comes from. They take it completely for granted. This is a conditioned soul's, one of the prominent diseases. We take things just for granted. And material nature illustrates to us and demonstrates with our increasing age that this is not for granted. It was given to us, and it can also be taken away. So as the body deteriorates and the deities are withdrawing their power, we see, I cannot see like I used to see. I cannot do things as I used to do. Everything is declining in regards to the body. So this is very obvious, very evident, but people don't get the point. This is one of the most traumatizing experiences. If you want to really see some ghastly reality, visit an old age home, or places where old people collect and when they gather. There is so much depression in the air, so many frustrated material desires, sometimes even anger. That's where you discriminate. You can see where the pious people are and the impious people. Pious people, Prabhupada call it, they are gentlemen. And gentlemen, he defined somebody who recognizes and admits his defeat. Okay, that's not going to work anymore. God has given and God will take away. That's what it is. But the impious person, he will be angry, he will oppose, he will strive for some kind of blessing to enjoy forever, live forever, improve the state of the body. This whole medical business is built basically on a desire of the conditioned soul to keep the body well preserved or improve it even. But that's not possible. It's one of the most heavy Prabhupada's argument. He said, no, you cannot improve the body. It looks like that externally maybe that some operation was successful, but you will die anyway. One devotee said, I think it was in connection to Africa, he said, oh, Prabhupada, they have a country there They have a 60% of death rate. So many people dying. Prabhupada said, what do you mean by 60% death rate? Every country on this planet is 100% death rate. That's because death is sure. It's just a question of time. But everything is 100% death rate here. So Krishna says, whoever is born, he will die. So this shloka is illustrating how we are once again entirely dependent. We are living in a state of dependency from the first day we are born to the last day before we die. All the time depending on somebody. So the choice of a devotee is to actually minimize his dependence on materially motivated people and maximize his dependence directly on the Supreme Personality of Godhead and his pure representative. And this is what is liberating. This liberation means actually not that you become completely independent. Liberation means that you become totally dependent, but on the Supreme Personality of Godhead and his pure representative. And that feeling of being liberated from all other dependencies, it's so wonderful. This is why I experienced when joining this movement, devotees were so happy. Why? Because I was thinking, how can they be so happy? They don't have anything. They are totally dependent. They have nothing. They actually, whatever normal people strive for, it doesn't interest them. And they are so ecstatic. And all the other people, they make such elaborate arrangements to achieve what they think they should achieve, and they are so miserable. Even rich people, even famous people, you cannot imagine how miserable they are. I met few famous and few rich people in my lifetime. None of them was happy. None of them. Fame is a terrible thing. Everything, your privacy is taken away. You are supposed to simply play a role assigned to you. I knew George Harrison from Beatles and all these things. I met them briefly, personally. You know, the more and more famous they were, the more they were wondering, what are these people talking about? This is not me. This is some kind of person they imagine to be, but I had nothing to do with me. You know, George Harrison said, I was reading about myself in the newspaper. And I was going, what is this guy? What are they writing about? He felt so estranged and being so famous. And the money was not, didn't make him happy either. Fortunately, he gave quite a substantial amount to Srila Prabhupada and helped spreading Krishna consciousness. That was very beneficial for him. But otherwise, no. So these things, this is the things you cannot buy. And karmis know that, and still they try over and over again. So we don't have to do that. We don't have to strive from sources of misery, which are derived exclusively from this body. Whatever problem we see around us, in any country and any place of this world, is based only on one idea, that we are this body. There's nothing more. Now just imagine people will really understand what Prabhupada said. They will really start to read and understand his books. I mean, to lift the whole society on a complete different platform. We are not this body. It's just amazing. And we experience it. I experienced that. I was living in an immigration movement before even the great immigration started, you know. It was called ISKCON. Yeah. It didn't matter. I found in my Sankirtan when devotees from India, you know, I had even a devotee from Africa. That was because Africa came later. So African devotees manifested later. But we couldn't care less. I had one Arabian devotee, you know, he joined in, he was actually coming from Lebanon, from Beirut. Heavy guy, you know, practically a terrorist. Yeah. And he joined in Germany too. We could go together on Sankirtan. We could chant and kirtan, no problem. There was immediately unity, because there was unity of purpose, and above all, there was a very general and common understanding that we are not this body. So even today, when you see devotees discussing problems and not agreeing and this and that, the bottom of the whole thing, when you always go to the root of the problem, it's always that somebody thinks still he is his body. That's all. Because when we are in this body, spiritual soul, the next question is, what is the function of the spiritual soul? What shall we do as a spiritual soul? It's nice to know I'm a spiritual soul, but what shall I do now? Now we know that we should Hare Krishna. So, okay. So, I chant Hare Krishna. What does it mean? What does it really mean to chant Hare Krishna? Or we glorify Krishna's name. Great. But there's a meaning to that prayer. Please, please, Krishna, remove this covering, material covering, and allow me to be actively engaged in devotional service. And this is very potent. And then Krishna will do that. He will offer us practical devotional service. How do we know what is practical devotional service? Well, that should come from the spiritual master. Therefore, we accept spiritual guidance. What shall I do in my position? We are in different positions. And in my situation, we are in different situations. What shall I do now? What can I do practically for Krishna? I'm sitting in this place. I have this condition. I have this, and And already when you watch Prabhupada, who actually basically had this same, you could call it, quality of people coming in. Uprooted hippies who gave up already, all the designations, social position, everything. That's a great asset. Prabhupada was drawing from these people, but they also were quite crazy. There was lots of drugs, all kinds of habituation, very sinful one. After all, the whole hippie movement died out in front of Prabhupada even. It was already in his time, the whole hippie movement collapsed. Why? There was two things: drugs and illicit sex life. That's enough to destroy a whole society. Any society. That's enough to destroy a whole movement. Any movement. As soon as this comes into the picture, poof, there's no way to coordinate things. People get out of control. They become unpredictable, completely under the control of material nature. So we cannot be united, and we cannot be cooperate as long we are under the control of material nature. So Prabhupada gave us such a wonderful way to actually find ourselves being united by being actively engaged in devotional service. It starts with Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam. That's can be done anytime, anywhere. And then this is a missionary movement. This is a missionary movement. So means we have a mission. And that mission is actually to give Krishna consciousness to others. And the beauty of the whole thing is that the more you give, the more you get. In the material world, the more you give, the less you have. At the end, you may end up having nothing. No, in spiritual sense, it's exactly opposite. It is described in Chaitanya Charitamrita that the Panchatattva emptied out the storehouse of love of Godhead. Emptied out and distributed liberally, just on the street. But the same moment it was filled up again. Similarly, it is described that in the presence of Lord Chaitanya, all the conditioned souls around him, they were liberated, they went back home, back to Godhead. But it's described the same moment the universe filled up again with new ones. There is never a lack of supply of conditioned souls. So this mission is eternal. It's permanently going on. And whoever comes in touch with it, and whoever becomes part of it, he can really experience wonderful spiritual emotions, yes. Suddenly we become happy, we don't even know. We don't even plan for it. I never planned to become so happy in Krishna consciousness as I became. I thought sometimes it doesn't make any sense. How can I become so happy? I'm born in a country where uh, actually where people enjoy to be unhappy. It sounds bizarre, but I don't want to give you a big lecture about Czech Republic and this kind of, but they are the champions of dark humor, cynism, you know. My American GBC previously, he said, Czech? Oh, this is Czech, this is sick. This is something strange. Foreigners are sometimes very hard to understand. Why are these people laughing here? Everybody is suffering and they are laughing. Yeah. Yeah, this is actually built into that mentality there. So I know how to, so I couldn't believe it. Why am I so happy in Krishna consciousness? The happiness will be simply imposed and it will manifest from inside because we are rightly situated, doing the right thing at the right time for Krishna. For this, of course, we need spiritual guidance and we need help, mutual help. We have to help each other according. And the beauty of Krishna consciousness is that even we are not this body. We know that. We also learn to understand what kind of body we are not. And this makes actually things very interesting. Because people get ideas. In the material world, people have all kinds of ideas who they are. But usually it's just illusion. It's just idea. And it doesn't work. But in Krishna consciousness, we learn who we are not only spiritually, eternal servant of Krishna, spiritual soul, but we also learn as we take distance from the body. And we also learn as much we understand we are not this body, what kind of body we are actually operating with. And they are very different bodies. They are different bodies, classified mode of goodness, mode of passion, mode of ignorance, but there are also great mixtures in between. It's not a chance we were born in a particular body. So for this, and we experience even amongst devotees, it's not easy when too many different bodies come together because we have a different way to express each other. Like when I go to India, I get sometimes really confused. You go to Bengal and you speak to somebody and you go, do you think it's okay? You agree? And they go like this. That means in European country, no. In Bengal, it means yes. It's exactly opposite. So this is just an example. The people, they act differently. It's sometimes very difficult to understand, but as soon as we chant Hare Krishna, as soon we worship Krishna, and as soon we come together for this purpose, suddenly we have a good time. So this is actually the wonderful solution to all these problems Prabhupada gave us. But it takes some lifetime, it takes long time before we understand how we are not this body and avoid and be cautious about these type of conditionings we are carrying around. So we just heard how our senses and how our body is entirely operated by supreme deities. It was given to us. We didn't make it. There's no factory on this world which produces human bodies. They produce robots nowadays, quite successfully, some robots, but it's impossible to reproduce such an amazing mechanism like human body is. It's just amazing. And there is 8,400,000 type of species of bodies Krishna created we can live in. It's quite a big number. And according to our consciousness, according to thinking, feeling, and willing, these three aspects which form our consciousness, according to that, we get a particular body. Not only amongst animals, but amongst plants, and amongst human beings. There's 400,000 types of human beings. Some people think this is a kind of sounds racistic. But no. This is scientific. Racism is an artificial designation. You have this body and therefore you belong to that community. This is all external. This is all designations. People like this, especially Shudras. They like this, to join a football club and join a nation and all these things. This is all totally illusory. But there is genetic design also in that body, which is given. It is just given, and there's no way we can deny it or fight it. I always entertained, like Prabhupada said, we are educating brahmanas, okay, in this movement. Yeah. I'm always laughing, how devotees assume the identity of a brahmana, because we have a perfect description in our books. How does brahmana look like? How does he act? Krishna himself defines the quality of brahmana, cleanliness, non-violence, being learned. This can be actually all learned. But by the time the challenge comes, by the time you get into, like example, in some crisis situation, you will maybe understand what your varna is, what the quality of the body is. Immediately. I always joke in a Sunday feast when people ask, how you are kind of designating people, or, this is very a sensitive issue nowadays. You are labeling people, sounds like racistic almost. No. I told him, just imagine, we are sitting here in a temple room, and the temple president opens the door and screams, "There's fire, fire, fire everywhere, fire!" And just watch how differently the audience will respond. I suspect most of you will scream, "Help, help, 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 help! There's fire, help, help!" I would call it Shudra. And then there will be some of you who will think, "Oh, fire. Oh, that's going to cost a lot to repair that. I hope these people are insured." That's Vaishya. He thinks immediately in terms of gain and loss and financial issues, like example. And then there is very few who may stand up and say, "Quiet, no panic, don't scream. I know where the exit door is. Please line up, follow me." They will organize the chaos, and protect the others. That's Kshatriya. And then there will be very few, maybe one or two. They will go, yes, we can understand there's action and reaction. And because of that, there is actually no accident that is far. There must be some deeper cause to it. That's a Brahmana. He will understand through knowledge. So this is a very practical things we learn in Krishna consciousness. Those who manage, they know, and they have to know, how to actually help people to be rightly situated, how to help them to understand where they could become most happy and most productive for Krishna. This is actually a gradual development. It may not happen overnight. It takes time. But it's a wonderful way to live, actually. It's actually a wonderful way not to imagine things, but actually to be real. In both ways. To know what kind of body I operate, and to know that I'm not this body ultimately, I'm spiritual soul. Therefore, Prabhupada said, and then we go all to Kirtan, and there is no Varna in ashrama. No. Kirtan is transcendental. That's for everybody, and we chant Hare Krishna, everybody chant Hare Krishna. And in this way, we can all unite, despite all our conditioning and our differences. Maybe say something more to comment, or something more, somebody has some question.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Prabhuji, for sharing your love and wisdom with us. Dear devotees, if anyone may have questions, comments, realizations you would like to share, please, you may unmute and go ahead and ask your question or speak. Prabhuji, thank you so much. I want to ask this question, and excuse me, hopefully, excuse me. Hopefully, you may be able to help me and probably help others also, in the sense that you lived and saw Srila Prabhupada personally, and you saw what was going on in his movement. At the time, he was physically here with us, Srila Prabhupada. Now, when you were speaking, you were talking about a Bengali responding to a situation and a Westerner responding to the same situation. Gesture-wise, the Bengali may shake his head left to right. In the Western culture, when somebody shows such a gesture, it means no, 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 no. But in Bengali, it means wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. I like it. I love it. So my question is, how much has culture, or like in sociology, we would say, how much has acculturation entered the Hare Krishna movement when it is not actually spiritual? Do we see cultural practices of different tribes or nationalities creeping into ISKCON? One is, when I first joined ISKCON, I used to think that anyone who ties a dhoti, anyone who dresses in a sari, is a Vaishnava or a Vaishnavi. But I realized that that is not the case. So
that's right.
My question is, like the way we dress as Vaishnavas, is that as a result of culture or spiritual? Hare Krishna.
The only thing I can say, and Prabhupada said it himself, he was asked about, why do you cut your hair? Why do you dress like this? Is it so important? Ultimately, Prabhupada said no. He said, dress is just external. It's a uniform type. He even said that. He used the word uniform. And one reporter even asked, we like to dress like this because we like to draw attention. It's like advertisement, So, but the deeper level is that these are symbols. Yes, they are symbols, but they symbolize something very, very deep. We apply these symbols like tilak. It is a responsibility. It's connected to, it's not a fashion. It can be used as a fashion. Anything can be used as a fashion. Anything you can be used in external way. You can even chant in external way. But there's a very deep cause. And that deep cause, the essence, this is what Prabhupada always pointed out. So we should understand one thing, that we applying these, you could call it external symbols and external dress and everything, we are automatically becoming responsible. And we should really understand more and more deeply how responsible we are. This is not some fashion, not at all. It was understood and it was even practiced by some as a fashion. The purpose is to go back home, back to Godhead. And for that, to develop that quality and to assume that kind of consciousness, oh, this is a very serious idea. Not idea, this is a serious task. So that doesn't mean we walk around very serious, very serious. Doesn't have to be. We can be happily serious. But the underlying thing, I give an example. I just read a beautiful letter from Prabhupada where he defines initiation into Krishna consciousness. It's just amazing. I can send this letter to anybody represented if they are in contact with me. Prabhupada writes to a devotee. He said, initiation is also actually just a ritual. It's just a confirmation. And he gets very personal. Prabhupada says, yes, I will finally initiate, but the real requirement for initiation you have to bring. And this is two things, seriousness and determination. That's, he said, when you seriously accept the process in a very determined way, you are already initiated. The ultimate initiation, the official saying, this is only reconfirmation of your sincerity and determination. So sometimes people say, also, this is just something you do. Somebody did this, my friend did this. Yeah, I have to also get some initiation. Well, I don't want to go more into it because I got initiated. Not me, but all my God brothers got initiated for life and death. Everything finished. No idea what to do, no plans, nothing. Now I'm initiated. Prabhupada said, and this is it. This is my life, this is my soul, and I have to do it. That was the mood of initiation when I joined. And the devotees did that. They just gave everything they had. And it's quite amazing, actually, when you think about this. And they didn't have anything. Hippies had no money. I give you a really beautiful story. Prabhupada was found after the initiation. He walked in his room chanting, and he had a golden heart hanging on a chain around his neck. And he was looking at it, and then he was chanting. And I think on the golden heart was written, with love, John. It was obvious that this was the only Guru Dakshin that girl could give, that hippie girl. She had this golden heart from her previous boyfriend, from John, so she gave it to Prabhupada. And, and Prabhupada carried it around his neck just for a little while. And then when his servant asked Prabhupada, what is it? Prabhupada showed, and he said, this was given to me with love. That was actually the real thing. Devotees gave everything. There is Prabhupada's response to it. I can send you another beautiful letter. Prabhupada writes, actually, I cannot command you. I cannot give you any, I cannot push you, I cannot command you, because you are already serving me with so much love and determination. So I can give you only advice. But I cannot really push you because you are giving everything you have already. That was the mood of initiation. That was the mood of changing dress, and that was the mood of assuming these symbols. Yeah, this is what it used to be. What is it today? I don't know. I cannot make some global analysis here. Devotees ask me this question, what are you saying? And like I give example of Africa. I have no idea what's going on in Africa. So what shall I say? I mean, I cannot. But one thing I notice, because I travel all the time, that the devotees are sometimes taking it very superficially. Krishna consciousness, not so deeply. They are kind of add Krishna consciousness to their life, which Prabhupada also said we should do, instead of adding themselves to Krishna consciousness. Yeah, they kind of add Krishna consciousness to their life and they get enlightened. It's wonderful. I would call it pious. It's nice. But the real fun comes when you give yourself to the process of Krishna consciousness. So this is actually where the real fun starts. Sometimes I also think, some devotees are happy and it's okay and it's wonderful, they are here and everything, but they are sometimes not, they are missing the real fun. The real fun is when you stand on the street, you don't know where to go, and you are praying to Krishna, and you are praying to him to be somewhat useful in his mission. In a total state of dependency and helplessness. This is actually where the real fun starts. And then Krishna will do amazing things. I could become autobiographic, so I could just tell you, some really amazing things what Krishna can do when you try to be useful to him. There are many devotees who can tell many stories like that. So cultural thing is there, local that you find in Chaitanya Charitamrita. We can read Chaitanya Charitamrita and you find there are very different devotees. There are devotees from Orissa, there are devotees from South India, there are devotees, and there you find differences of worship even. But the basis is the same. Basis cannot change. The expression, how it comes out, yeah, it can change. I heard, I don't know if I am not authorized about the history of Africa, but I heard from Brahmananda, who was one of the pioneers of preaching in Africa, yeah. And when he came back, he told us stories. It was incredible. He said, in Africa, no lecture. He said, actually, the places I went to, I couldn't give any lecture. They don't speak even English. But as soon as I pulled the Medanga and we made ecstatic kirtan, they got all fired up in these villages. They brought up their drums, and they were going with these big drums, bam, 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 bam. And chanting, they could he said, actually, they couldn't repeat the whole mantra. So they divided the mantra in two. First chanted Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. They repeated that. And then Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. And he said, they were chanting. And they were dancing with us. They loved that. In this, he spoke about he ended up really in some very remote villages, Africa in the 70s, yeah. Today, I don't know Africa. I never was there, but Africa has so many different features, and there are universities, there are people, there are very different people. But those days, he ended up in these villages. He told me this is a very, very candid story, He told me, Brahmananda, in the early days, they were going, okay, there will be no lecture, but we can make a kirtan and prasadam. That's important. So they cooked a big pot of khichdi and start to serve it to the villagers. And they didn't like it. They really didn't like the taste. They were like, what is this? So they were so frustrated. So they left the pot in the sunshine. Yeah. Well, it started to a little bit become fermented because it's so hot in Africa. So the khichdi got a little bit fermented. And then I saw some villager came and he put a finger into the pot and he tasted and he liked it. And another one came and he tasted. So from there on, they just cooked the khichdi, let it stand in the sun, until it gets fermented, and people like it. Not exactly advised in the Shastra, but this was a very special situation, I believe. Like I said, I don't know anything about Africa. I just heard it from Brahmananda. He told it once. He said once. So that was a very, very early days. So otherwise, I don't know much about, the history of African preaching, but I'm a European man. I was just moving around Europe all the time and Scandinavia. But there are cultural differences, definitely. I could just go to Mayapur on Gopunima or something. Or nowadays you can go anytime to Mayapur and just sit there and watch different devotees arriving. You know, they are very different. I can give you examples, you know. It's a little bit, maybe a little bit overdone, but I give you an example. I noticed myself. I was sitting in Mayapur at the big gate there, at the entrance, chanting. And then comes the German devotees. And they are constantly complaining how spaced out India is. Everything was too late, bad organization, you know, because Germans are the top organizers of the world. Prabhupada said that. So, you know, so they can organize the whole world. They demonstrated in the past they can do that. So, and then come Italian devotees. And they only dance on the way from the airport, you know. And then, and they get so ecstatic when they come to Mayapur. You know why? Because they realized, my God, they are making pizza even here. You know, there's pizza in Mayapur. Great. You know, and they are always in a mood of singing, dancing. That's Italian. And come Scandinavian devotees. They don't say anything. They're silent. They don't say anything. But they are thinking a lot. And they are perceiving very intensely the holy atmosphere. But they are not communicating very much. That's Scandinavia. You know, I mean, you can see the differences. But we should be one thing careful about. That we, again, assume or take the bodily differences as being the priority. Then it becomes troublesome. When one, you could say, race tries to prove itself superior to the other, then you have a problem. And again, all the problems come from bodily understanding of life. So then we have a problem. You know, I don't want to go more in detail. I could give you lots of details because in line of my management, I got confronted. I once managed a temple in Scandinavia where practically all the devotees were imported. So we used to have a farm in Sweden, or I managed a temple. We found ourselves as managers in a situation we had 8 or 10 nations in one temple, devotees serving. It's not so easy, you know. You have to become very flexible as a manager and deal with them in a particular way. Like Germans like to be ordered, you know. Yeah. Nah. Irish devotees don't like to be ordered. Irish devotees like that have the feeling I am doing it myself. So you have to entrust them with something they feel like, yes, I am doing it. This is an Irish way to do that. Yes. You know, Germans just stand there and they go, okay, give us an order. You know, that was used to be like that, actually. I'm speaking, my manager days are over. So this is quite some years ago, but I went through all this. How do you deal with Italian devotees? Oh, Prabhu, I love you. It's great. Please, so nice you are here. So you came. And they go, Radhe, Hare Krishna. They're happy. You see, as a manager, you have to really know how to get close to people and possibly inspire them to do the same thing. We are serving Krishna. That's it. But how to get there? We have our different ways. And even in the individual nations, you find differences. Prabhupada said, wherever you go, you find these 4 classes of men. You know, even in a Kami society, it's covered, but it's there. There's more the thinkers, there's more the organizers and, you know, enforcement, executive power. And then there is the business guys. They will sell everything and make business with everything. And then there's a working class. This you find everywhere. But the beauty of Krishna consciousness is ultimately not the priority. I could give you an example of devotees who are clearly operating from Shudra body, but because they are so devoted, like what is the qualification of Shudra? He likes to serve. Well, it's perfect for Krishna consciousness, you know. It's wonderful. You know, he likes to serve. And how do you deal with him? You appreciate the service. You encourage him. So wonderful you have done. And even anybody wants to be encouraged, but Kshatriya doesn't need it so much. You know, he just needs a field of action. You have to give space. You cannot cut him down. Give him a space and responsibility and challenge. Oh, Kshatriya loves this. There's a challenge here. Great. And Brahmana, how do you please a Brahmanical devotee? You give him a chance to teach. And you listen. You take advice. He will love to teach you. He will love to help you, you know, and give you good advice. This is different, you know, different natures. And we have to understand them. And if we would take it into consideration and not prematurely assign ourselves to be entirely transcendental. What does it mean, transcendental? Transcendental means, according to Prabhupada, that what you have, what you do, and what you got, even in a form of that conditioning, you use it for Krishna. Then you transcend that. But it doesn't mean it's actually changing. Arjuna wanted to change, okay? He wanted to become actually a Brahmana. Krishna was laughing at him. He said, you, Brahmana? Where did this idea came from? You are a fighter, and you will be fighter. It doesn't matter what you do, you will be a fighter. So why don't you fight for me? When he spoke to Uddhava, oh, that was a different thing. Same Bhagavad Gita was spoken, but in a very Brahminical way. You know, so sometimes I wonder why people try always to be somebody they are not. It's a hard work, you know. You have to imagine who you are, and even it's a good idea, but it's not you. But then you have to convince others, you know, and they don't believe you. It's a really hard work full of frustration. Why not just agree? Okay, this is what we got. Let's use it for Krishna. Simple.
Well, thank you so much, Prabhuji, for the elaborate explanation to my question. And as you were answering my question, lots of other things came up. That is Krishna scolding Arjuna, who is a Kshatriya, now wanting to become a Brahmin. So Krishna says that is not your, how do you call it, your actual field of operating. You've always been operating as a Kshatriya. So why now all of a sudden this idea of being a Brahmin has overcome you? Now, in ISKCON, at least, Srila Prabhupada was asked, and he said that he's trying to make the whole world become Brahmins. Now, if everyone becomes a Brahmin, when someone by his nature is a Vaishya, someone is a Vaishya, now we're forcing that person to give up that Vaishya tendencies that he came into this world with to become a Brahmin. I don't know if we think that is appropriate comparing this situation to what Krishna told Arjuna. In other words, in short, some devotees think that as long as you become a devotee, your whole duty is to be a Brahmin. And for a Brahmin, your main responsibility is to teach. You have to teach, you have to serve on the altar. And therefore, it is expected that at least every devotee must serve on the altar, every devotee must teach, like orally, verbally, speak. But it isn't everybody who is gifted to speaking. Some people, it's very difficult for them to speak. Just like you were giving examples of different nationals and the way they perform devotional service. Somebody wants to be told what to do. All he's waiting for is just tell me what I have to do. I don't want to be thinking what to do. But if you tell me what to do, I will do it. So I think this is a dilemma. If you may shed some light on this, please.
Well, what you said is just already describing the things which go on. There is one saying, which doesn't sound shastric, but I got it from a very successful preacher, sannyasi, who told me, yeah, I know, this doesn't come directly from the Shastra, but actually there are Shastric statements of a similar kind. The water always finds its level. Whoever deals with water knows that. Now you can temporarily pump the water up, so make some fontaine or like it is. But when electricity is switched off, the water will settle down where there are different levels of water. There's a ground level, there's a, river level, So the water will settle in this level and you will not be able to change it. So this is essentially what Varnashram Dharma is about. And why you mentioned that actually everybody should be able to preach, right? But this is not exclusive thing for the Brahmanas. In Prabhupada's movement, if one considers himself to be affiliated or a member of Prabhupada's movement, everybody should be able to preach according to his realization. I had this problem too. I remember that meeting once. I had a 25 years, the same GBC. We were quite close. So I came to him and I told him, it took me 15 years of book distribution on Sankirtan just to realize my Varna. No love of God at really. I like Krishna, but no ecstatic symptoms of love of God. Just to understand my Varna. And he gave me a big round of applause. He said, that's great. Most people don't get it the whole life. That was his understanding. Mm-hmm. Everybody tries to be something he is not. So, and then I asked him, well, now I know my Varna, but how come that I still like to preach? I like to go to people and I like to speak about Krishna and I like when they become Krishna conscious. And then he looked at me with an open eye. He said, that's everybody likes in ISKCON. This is where our division ends. And you can preach in various ways. I give an example of a devotee, many, many years in Krishna consciousness, who is famous for being expert cleaner. You have such a devotee in a temple, everything becomes spotless clean. Very popular, But he said, I'm not a philosopher. I don't really get this, what is in the books. I like to read Krishna book. That's okay. I like prasadam. And these two things he preached to people since last 35 years or 40 years. And very convincing, yeah. People we used to actually, because I used to run restaurants also. So we used to have him as an appetizer on a table. When he talked to people of prasadam, they were immediately starting eating more. It was so convincing, And his hard work, cleaning, being simple and straightforward, that was preaching in itself. So we should let's say we cannot. There's one beautiful letter from Prabhupada illustrating that. Obviously, one devotee asked him the same question. Prabhupada, I'm not so philosophical. No, I'm not Brahmanical. Prabhupada writes to him, if you in the morning read one shloka of Bhagavad Gita, and then the whole day while you are working, meditate about the shloka, what does it really mean? That's perfect. That's enough for you. Now, some people need more. So, Prabhupada, sometimes also people think that Brahmanical means academically educated. That's not true. We have in Chaitanya Charitamrita examples of extremely simple Brahmanas. We have even an example of illiterate Brahmanas. Illiterate Brahmana who couldn't read. You know that story. When Lord Chaitanya came around and he said, so you have a Bhagavad Gita here. What you are reading? And he said, well, I cannot read because I am illiterate, but my spiritual master told me to study Bhagavad Gita, so I'm doing that. And he was just looking at the pictures. And the other Brahmins were laughing and going, so, dear Brahmana, what did you learn today? But Lord Chaitanya said, but I see sometimes when you are studying Bhagavad Gita, looking at these pictures, you are crying. How come? So then the Brahmana said, well, I always look at the picture Arjuna sitting on a chariot, and Krishna, Supreme Personality of God, had become his driver, the servant of his devotee, driving his chariot. How amazing Krishna is. How kind he is. He is taking part even in a battle. And he is driving the chariot, risking, there's a fighting. But he said, I will not fight. I'm just driving the chariot. So, how kind. So Lord Chaitanya embraced him and he said, you understood Bhagavad Gita. So, what is the essence of the whole thing? So, this academic exercises, sometimes I don't want to really sound controversial or discourage any Brahminical education, type of education, but it doesn't say sometimes very much. Big academic study, big education, and at the end you see that person doing something which even my father wouldn't do. My material father. You think, oh, how could this happen? Because this is just academic. This is just a theoretical knowledge. This is jnana. And Prabhupada wanted us to understand vijnana, realized knowledge. And that will be visible in action. So Kshatriya can preach by his example, Vaishya will preach by his example, and Shudra will preach by his example, and Brahmana will preach by his example. On Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Shudra, you find things which can be defined as objectionable, yeah. No. On Brahmana, that should be pure. That should be that will be really exemplary in character, in knowledge, in cleanliness. That's Brahmana.
Well, thank you so much. Go ahead, Prabhu.
We know from the Shastra, Kshatriyas can have a little problem sometimes. They grab a lady or something like this, or passion, more of passion, yeah.
Yeah.
But even that, Prabhupada had to deal with that also. I could give you an example on that part, but Prabhupada had to also deal with that. And this was initiated disciples. And he was confronted with that conditioning of the disciple. Now, we cannot imitate what Prabhupada has done. He was very tolerant on a certain point, but I'm just mentioning it because he had to deal with this also. So why do always try to be have another body? Actually, it's pathetic. We try to get rid of the body and go back to Godhead, and instead of that, we are trying to be another body. It's ridiculous.
Well, thank you so much, Prabhuji. It seems we have one hand up. Govinda Prabhu, please you may unmute and go ahead and ask your question or speak.
Thank you very much, Sadhu Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Prabhu, please accept my respectful obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada and all glories to you and your service to Srila Prabhupada. Prabhu, my question is, I have two questions. My first question is about this Brahmanical sorry, it's about this question of Sadhu Prabhu that you are explaining, and then you're talking much about the Brahmanical qualities and who is to be a Brahmana and who is not to be a Brahmana. You've explained so perfectly. But I have this simple question. I would like to know about the Pandavas. Pandavas, were they all wearing Brahmanical thread? And were they all chanting the same Gayatri mantra that the Brahmanas today are chanting?
Yeah, in a Vedic society, Kshatriya and Brahmana received Brahmanical initiation, yes. The details of that I would recommend you to find devotees. I can even give you hints to whom to go, who will give you a more detailed Shastric background of that, why they got this initiation. However, in Prabhupada's movement, at the early days, you know how I got Brahmanical initiation? Automatically. It was customary that you one year you get initiated, the next year you get Brahmanical initiation on the recommendation of the local temple president. Does it make me to a Brahmana? No, after 50 years in ISKCON, I have serious doubt. No. That has to be seen by my actions, has to be seen by my lifestyle. And and I got proven many times in my life, over and over again, that no, I am not a prophet of Brahmanical nature. What shall I do now? I would say that the Brahmanical initiation, like Kshatriya, was more obligatory. It was like, because actually Brahmana and Kshatriya are the same. Now you may wonder why I'm saying this, because they have a very different lifestyle. They are exactly the same in purpose. A Kshatriya will do nothing without a Brahmana, and Brahmana should find a Kshatriya who executes, the will of the Brahmana. I was personally present in France when Prabhupada said that. He said, if we don't in ISKCON have the cooperation between Brahmana and Kshatriya, we will not be able to spread this movement. It makes complete sense, because one is like the legislative and one is the executive power. In a government, you find the same thing, but anyway, today's governments, we are not going to talk about it, but the principle is there. So one thing was, Vaishya and Shudra, no Brahmin initiation. In a Vedic society, no needed. So I would consider this to be a part of the Vedic culture and more or less obligatory. Okay. Otherwise, amongst the Pandavas themselves, you find differences too. You find Yudhishthira being the more the Brahminical type. Never spoke a lie. That's typical Brahmana. But he was fighting at the end. And then, well, you find, Bhima. That's a classical, Kshatriya thing. Arjuna, classical. This is like, So even there was slight differences. Ultimately, in Krishna consciousness, we always conclude that it depends how attached we are to Krishna and how we are authorized by Krishna in our actions. Prabhupada, there are actual lectures from him where he is not very much stressing the need of a Brahmana. He's stressing that there must be a Vaishnava Brahmana. There are Brahmanas who are not Vaishnavas. So Prabhupada, in one sense, that's the wonderful thing in a Vedic society, Brahmana. On the other side, there is a higher level as a Brahmana, and that's a Vaishnava. That's somebody who completely surrendered to Krishna. Brahmana doesn't necessarily have to be like that. So Prabhupada, he established Vedic culture with Brahmins drink, Brahmana. He spoke about Varnashram Dharma, especially in a later phase of his preaching. But ultimately, the essence of the whole thing is everybody should prepare himself to go back home, back to Godhead. That you can do without a Brahminical string. That you don't have to be a Brahmana for that.
Wonderful.
Thank you very much.
I like the question, and I appreciate the answer.
Thank you very much. I don't want to.
Second question.
Yeah, I don't want to stress more on this Brahmana thing, but all right. So let me go here. My second question is about. I hear you saying that initiation is a formality, but the actual initiation actually begins from the heart. That if one is sincere, one is serious in Krishna consciousness, the person automatically is initiated. That is where I have a little problem. That if a person is sincere and following, Srila Prabhupada has already given everything in the scriptures, and this person says, I don't need to take a guru. I will only be sincere and follow the instructions and chant my rounds without breaking any principles, and I'll try to serve. So if formal initiation is just a formality, and a person is following and doing everything without a guru, in Guru Astakam prayers, the last stanza says that Guru is my Lord birth after birth. Janmi, Janmi, Prabhu said. So we know that if once the Guru connects a disciple, once the Guru accepts a disciple, it is the duty of the Guru to make sure that that disciple returns back to Godhead. And that if the disciple happened to fail along the line of his progression towards the spiritual world, then the Guru has to come back and then pick that disciple or arrange for that disciple to be connected to the process and get back to Godhead. And we also know that at the point of initiation, there are so many mystical things that takes place. I'm speaking like this because you say it's just a formality. I know practically I've seen that when Guru Bhattisiddhanta Maharaj was given initiation, so many mystical things took place. And so if you say it's just a formality, someone may take it like that, it's not that important, it's just a formality. So I would like you to actually clarify if you say it's a formality and that nothing takes place. Once you are serious, you are sincere, you are already initiated. I would like you to comment on that. And if you don't have a guru and you are sincere and you are unable to make it, then who will take you?
It's of course, you could say it's a touchy issue, okay? I am just repeating what Prabhupada said. But I also said before today, how serious and how devoted we were, and I hope we are, to Prabhupada. So that's a formality, is in context with the process, with the procedure. However, ultimately, the relationship guru-disciple is very personal, and it's very serious. Because the process may be like a formality, but as you mentioned before, and Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, those who are sincere, even before having a guru, and Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, to have a guru is a condition. Without guru, you cannot go back to Godhead. That clarifies a lot. So, but then comes, of course, the question, who is a guru? And again, guru is the one who is keeping the formality in place, keeping the process established. But besides that, there will be guarantee situations arising where the disciple is in trouble besides his perfect following. And he will ask, how can I apply this process in my situation, in a present situation? I see you being a car driver. That's wonderful. It's just wonderful to watch this because it illustrates the whole point. You now, I have to sit behind that steering wheel, and you are on job, you have to do your duty. Now, how can you be in maximum fashion being Krishna conscious and applying it according to the time, place, and circumstances? That's where Guru is absolutely needed. He will show practically, okay, now you can do that. Now you can apply this like that. And don't worry about that. That comes later. Now this priority is like that. So it's a very personal thing. So Guru is ultimately not a formality. It's a very personal thing. But Prabhupada meant that this is a formality, that this is just ultimate confirmation of already existing, already ongoing process. I don't know, it sounds maybe too complicated, but it's this two elements. There's a process, we have to be reconfirmed, good. But then how to apply in daily life, and how to, this requires, it comes to a point where every disciple needs personal, direct advice, instruction, whatever it is. But it has to become very personal. If that personal thing is not there, well, then Guru becomes also only formality. It becomes a picture on a wall, you hang it there, you offer your boga, and you go, Jai, Jai, Maharaj, and that's it. Well, for me, that wouldn't be enough. I don't keep picture of Prabhupada for that on the wall, right? So, so these two things are there. Yes, Prabhupada said this is an official confirmation, like a stamp. You're initiated, great. But actually, what does it mean, initiation? That's the beginning. It's not the end. So you initiated, you get confirmation, you are initiated, you follow the process already, but now comes the personal guide, Can you imagine, I never wrote to Prabhupada one letter because I felt fully engaged. I had a guidance, I had everything what I needed. So I think, why should I bother him to write him some letter? And suddenly he wrote me a letter out of nowhere because I distributed some books. So I was shocked. That's how, it's a personal thing. So these both things are there. So it's
Thank
good.
you very much.
Very good. It's very good you made the point that devotee shouldn't take it. It sounds obligatory. It sounds like superficial.
Yeah.
No, it's not. The relationship to Guru must be a very personal one. It's not something, some picture on a wall and that's it. Yeah. We have holy pictures, religions have holy pictures and they hang it on a wall and they go, Jaya, Aja, and that's it, There's Jah, he's hanging there, hanging framed on a wall. That's not Guru. Yeah. It's wonderful to see you working. I like that. It's really amazing. It's like watching Arjuna on a battlefield, with a bow and sitting on a chariot, and then then he asks philosophical questions. I like it. Okay.
Thank you very
Thank
much,
you.
Prabhuji.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Well, thank you so much for answering this question, Prabhuji. And personally, my understanding of this diksha being a formality is pretty much the way you explained it. Because some devotees, like my big brother Govinda Prabhu just asked, paint a picture that seems to be like, diksha, no diksha, it's not important. Diksha is just a formality. You just have to follow the instructions and do what it said. But one sense when we say formality, it's not just to show to people, but a formality is to concretely, in a concrete sense, in a very strong sense, prove to everyone that, yes, I have accepted this. Yes. So, diksha is a very, very important tool in spiritual life. In fact, Srila Prabhupada, actually it's not Srila Prabhupada, it's Narada Muni, who was speaking to the Prachitas. And if I may share this, this is Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 31, Text 10. Just the text, because this is when Narada Muni was speaking to the Prachitas. A civilized human being has three kinds of births. The first birth is by a pure father and mother. And this birth is called birth by semen. The next birth takes place when one is initiated by the spiritual master. So if you are, and this birth is called Savitra. The third birth, called Yagika, takes place when one is given the opportunity to worship Lord Vishnu. Despite the opportunities for attaining such births, even if one gets the lifespan of a demigod, if one does not actually engage in the service of the Lord, everything is useless. This is what Prabhuji was saying. Similarly, one's activities may be mundane or spiritual, but they are useless if they are not meant for satisfying the Lord. And in the purport, maybe everybody can read this later on, 431.10. 431.10. But in the purport, Srila Prabhupada also explains that diksha is very, very important. And that is why in our movement, Srila Prabhupada referring to ESKCON, that we give Harinam initiation, which is the first initiation to chant the mantra. Because until the spiritual master initiates one into chanting the mantra, you chant the mantra, but the potency is not the same as the guru giving you the mantra. So initiation is a very important factor in our devotional service. And like I said, I very much appreciate the response and the answer His Grace Manidhara Prabhu gave us. Thank you, Prabhuji. Anyone else with something to say?
I could quote a letter from Prabhupada, which is in regards to initiation. There's a letter of Prabhupada where this is obviously written to managers who were ultimately recommending, aspiring disciples. Prabhupada, he initiated the process of recommendation, and he was actually more and more restrictive. When you follow his line of preaching, he was more and more restrictive in the terms of initiation. Up to the point, there's a letter he writes, actually, initiation is only for those who are actively preaching Krishna consciousness. Ooh. This is now how you can define who is actively preaching Krishna consciousness. That's another issue. Okay. But the purpose of initiation, Prabhupada defined, is that if you got that process, you are engaged in a process, obliged to give to others and introduce others to the very same process. This is actually also a meaning of initiation. So again, it's not something like you become member of some church, you get the holy picture, hang it on the wall, and you follow some rituals, and you feel like, yeah, then I go to heaven. That's it. That's piety. That's okay. That's piety. Prabhupada in the same letter writes that actually those who feel like that, they should be encouraged, and they should be encouraged to contribute to the mission, but they don't appreciate it. They are congregationalist supporters. Of course, nowadays it would be great if we could ask directly Prabhupada about details of that, what he wrote there, but that letter exists, and it is, I don't want to go further on this initiation issue, because some people may feel very unpleasant. Under which circumstances initiation is given today. I saw and I experienced that when it's done too quickly, too cheap, it turns against both the disciple and the guru. So it's a serious thing. As you mentioned, Diksha is serious. This is a commitment. The vows are made, duties are given, and the process is supposed to follow. Prabhupada was very serious on this point.
Well,
okay.
Yeah,
out of time.
Yeah, I think we're good. David, what is? I think we may have to let Prabhu go. He's actually on the road preaching, and he had to stop to do another type of preaching. So, Prabhu, we're very grateful to your dedication to sharing your wisdom with us. And on this note, we're going to humbly request all the devotees to kindly unmute, and we all chant our Krishna mantra, Mahamantra, to express our appreciation to our revered speaker, His Grace Manidhara Prabhu, for speaking to us today. Jai. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Vancha kalpa tarubhya, kripa sindhubhya vacha, Nam Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai. Manidhara Prabhu ki jai. Hare Krishna. Hare Hare Bol.
Prabhupada ki jai.
Jai.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Mitai Gora Piminande. Our glories to assemble devotees.